Welcome to the Kentucky Line. I'm Matt.
And I'm Clifton. And so coming to you, been a little, been a little bit here since our last episode. We've kind of been waiting for some uh, good news to come down the pike, and it's been kind of a tough stretch. When we last recorded, there was a little bit of optimism. There was some momentum there. Kentucky was getting visits the next day from Rob Wright and Stokes, and then the following day was supposed to be Donnie Freeman. And so, you could tell Kentucky was kind of setting it up to get excited about these. And then somehow, while Wright was on the visit, they lose momentum with him, and he decides to go back to BYU. Stokes is still up in the air. We'll talk plenty about him through the episode. And then Donnie Freeman. Essentially, Kentucky has Rancic, a power forward from Colorado, ready to commit, but they try to push him off, waiting on Freeman, who they feel good about. He's kind of just saying, "All right, just wait, I'm coming." And eventually, another offer comes in, and Kentucky misses both of those guys. Rancic goes to Florida State, Freeman to St. John's. So, Matt, really, everything we thought was going to happen the last time we talked went as bad as it possibly could go.
Yeah, it's been pretty tough sledding for the recruiting uh, saga here, and I mean, I think there are a few things that are are true at the same time. One is I think that Rob Wright, for one, you know, it seemed like other people. I think Jeff Goodman had said, you know, it sounds like Rob Wright's really uh, trending towards Kentucky, and I think
Mm-hmm.
Kentucky fans getting all crazy, and including myself, thinking, okay, well, that sounds like
Yeah.
that's really positive. And then after he ends up going back to BYU, I think Matt Norlander had come out and said that it sounded, from what it sounded to me like, Rob Wright didn't really want to leave BYU in the
Right.
first place. It sounded like his agent pushed him to get in the portal to see what uh, what he could get, to try to drive his offer up from BYU, or see if he could get something significantly more.
Mm-hmm.
And what it sounded to me like was we did offer him more,
Yeah.
but it just sounded like he just wanted to stay where he was,
Yeah, I think coming here just reinforced how much he liked it at BYU.
and you know, so I don't really consider that one a whiff for us because, like I said, I don't think the guy. I think the guy was kind of fishing anyway. It's not like he was like, I want to go to Kentucky. He came on a visit, I think, to see, but I just don't. So I don't really consider that one too bad. But I do when it comes to Freeman and Rancic. I think we pretty much messed that whole situation up.
Yeah, it was
And
handled almost as bad as it possibly could be. And with Wright, you know, it's not that he didn't come here. I think it was just how they leaked, information about all of that. It was pretty clear they were telling people Wright's probably coming here. And when you take that, who's the number 5 player in the class, clearly would have been the number 1 point guard in the portal. Uh, it's a position of need that really has been kind of the hindrance for Pope since he's got to Kentucky, with injuries. But when you build that up, I think that's where it shows they're struggling just playing the PR game, and then it was
yeah,
magnified by the whole Freeman fiasco.
yeah, the Freeman thing. It well, and I have mixed feelings about that too because I feel like on one hand we really messed up by not, in hindsight, it's like we should have just offered the Rancid kid and just taken him.
Yes.
Okay, because I think we had him. If we,
Mm-hmm.
but
By all reports.
yeah, I mean, again, yeah, by all reports, it sounded like we had him. But on the other hand, if you really wanted Freeman, if you thought Freeman was better and that's who you wanted, and you thought you had him, well, I kind of see why you didn't pull the trigger, so quick. It's tough, and I think that's part of the negotiation part that we are struggling with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and because when Freeman he gets a better offer, and honestly, I'm not really mad that we lost Freeman because I'm not sure that we should have paid him more than what St. John's was going to pay because we were going to pay him a lot anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm not really mad that we lost him. I'm mad that we lost both of them because I felt like we had we had the other guy, and the other guy may have been better in Pope's system anyway.
Yeah. Oh, I think this kind of gets to my big complaint with everything. And we've talked about it, and I'm sure we'll continue to talk about this. This is going to be a theme, either until he hires a general manager that is in this role full time and he's dealing with numbers. It seems like Keegan Brown is more just kind of the analytics, the basketball side of things. He's kind of identifying talent, and that's great. But you have to have somebody that knows numbers and the business side. And until you have both of those components in place, it seems like Pope has struggled. They've identified some talent, but I just don't feel like we go after really the top end talent in the portal a lot of times. And I feel like when we do, and even maybe this goes a little bit to the recruiting trail, with the exception of Stokes, I feel like they kind of say, all right, here's what we think a guy's worth, and we're going to stick to that. And that's fine for most of your players. But if you go and get top guys, you have to be willing to know the market, come in with a strong offer. If this is my number one target, you need to make sure it's something that we're going to lock down now and not just allow yourself to be used for a bargaining chip, which is what they've, really turned seemingly every visit into is just, all right, I'm going to come get this big offer from Kentucky and then I'll shop it around and, ultimately at least somebody else a match. And it's just been, I don't know, it's disheartening to me as a fan with the whole process.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't think there's any way around it. We have. It's been an epic disaster, really, so far. Outside of now, obviously, we did get Diallo, and I really wanted the Wilkins kid,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was happy we got him because I really think he's going to be uh, really good.
Yeah, I do too. I
And
think both of those, when you look at where the roster's at as of today, you have Marino coming back. That's a surefire starter at the five. And then you're 1 and 2. You have two guys that can both play point guard or off the ball, good size with Diallo and Wilkins. Uh, I think I guess playing devil's advocate, I'm probably a little more excited about Wilkins than Diallo. Um, and I just think the trend has shown that, you're going to get kind of your best bang for your buck, and guys can kind of exceed their portal rankings when they come from that lower tier, and that's what Wilkins doing. He's coming up a level from Furman, and they just almost seem too similar, maybe. And I've seen that criticism. People are wondering how well they'll play together. But I'm hoping for the best. At least we have serviceable point
well,
guards.
I think that I think that whole part of it is I've heard that criticism or or concern, but to be honest with you, I'm not that concerned about that because to me it's not that much different than what we had last year. Uh,
That's true.
you and all I've heard is how are we going to replace Aberdeen and Owe as it and which is true. But if you remember, halfway through the season, everybody thought we stunk, and so
Well,
and so it's just here's the bottom line: winning cures all.
Yeah.
So we have to. These guys, both of these guys can play point guard, but Wilkins, he can play anywhere.
Yeah.
He can play. He can play off the ball. I'm not as now Diallo. I don't know that he's as uh, good. He's not the scorer. It doesn't seem that Wilkins is.
Of the two, he probably needs the ball in his hand more.
Yeah, but he's a really good passer,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the thing. I think both of these guys, because they have played so much point guard, um, it will really help our ball movement and penetration and I don't know, just I think they can make that part work. I'm more concerned about and because they're both are good size. To me, it's not that's not going to matter much. I'm more concerned about that four position
Mm-hmm.
um, because we still don't have anybody really. Uh, and listen, we've just got to get some players, and I don't know if you've heard anything about this McBride kid, but what's he doing? You know
Well,
why? Here's my question: why can we not get a commitment from anybody? It seems
that's
like
that's why I was saying I worry
within
sometimes we're just being used as kind of a bargaining chip to come in and maybe get a minimum offer. And if if nobody else is willing to do this, then I think the McBride thing, if you're kind of look on the bright side, there. So today, well, before I get to that, let me say this. So, do you feel like we have 1, 2, and 5 those spots starters locked up? Is
I
that
think we have 1, 2, and 5 locked up, and I think that everyone, including and when I hear a lot of the criticism, I, and I'm not saying he's a starter, but I think we're kind of forgetting about Cam Williams a little bit.
well? I have Cam Williams, and just for me, if I was putting together this roster, I would, with these last two, I think Kentucky's missing a star. I think you need that,
Yeah,
and so for me, I'm going to try to go get stars at the 3 and 4 spot. And if I only get one, so be it. Cam can fit at the 3 or the 4. And if best case scenario, you get a star at the 3 or 4, and Cam's the perfect 6 man.
right. Yeah,
But so you have, to me, 3 what should be contributors this year. Cam, who can be a 3 or 4. You have Braden Hawthorne, who has talent and is at a 3. And then today they signed Usman Njai, a power forward. He's 6'11", 7'3" wingspan. He is an athlete. He averaged about 10 points a game. You can see he hits some threes. He plays on the wing a lot. He has the size. And it's just so hard for me to know how is that going to translate from playing in a professional league in Africa to here. You can find accounts of people that follow international basketball that will say this guy has the potential to be an elite talent. I've seen people say he is your starting power forward,
yeah.
but I don't know. I heard, I saw the
It's so
same.
unknown to
I saw
me.
the same thing about Yelovich, and
Yeah,
I think Yelovich has potential. But here's the thing: Mark Pope doesn't have time for potential.
no,
He can't be putting together a roster of guys. Hey, look, this guy in 2 years can be elite because you're not going to be here in 2 years if you can't put together a real team this year.
yeah,
And so I wonder about that, but that is the newest commit today, Njai. And you can watch the tape. It flashes at times, but also he's frail, he's skinny, and you kind of have to wonder, unless he's just a mismatched nightmare physically, how's he going to hold up in a league like the SEC?
yeah. I mean, I think I'm definitely not putting all my eggs in that basket as far as him being a
I hope not.
lock for the a four. Uh, I honestly, I don't know. It's hard to know. I think when you get a player like that, there's just a whole lot of unknowns with that. Um, and he may be really good, but I just think there's no way of really knowing until the season starts, to be honest with you, because I don't really care, and I don't care what I hear in practice either. We'll see what happens when the season starts, because it's just it's too unknown, and which basically boils down to, okay, so we got this guy. Um, I don't know about this again. The McBride kid, I don't know. I mean, he canceled all his other visits, at
Hmm.
least what it sounded like from what I heard.
So is Njai the it? Did that cause pause for McBride? Because to me, McBride's the perfect depth piece.
Right. I mean,
You
here's the thing: we have to have some pieces too. I mean,
Yes,
guys. I mean, it's not like McBride is some, you know. I mean, I think we were looking at him to be to be a piece of the puzzle.
yeah,
Uh,
kind of a backup four who
yeah, a guy
shoots
that
the
can go in
ball.
there and and he's a big bodied
Hmm.
and strong and can get you rebounds. And I mean, I think he could be a guy that could help you
Yeah,
in a lot of games in the SEC.
I
Uh,
would look at him almost like there. It's a different position, even though still playing the four in the post. But to me, he's like an upgrade of more production from like a Garrison or and even in Pope's system, I think he could be. He's a better fit than Diabate was last year.
yeah. Oh, I do too. Yeah, I think I do too. I mean, I think he would fit well, and maybe he's still going to come. I mean, we've not heard
No,
that he's going anywhere else.
no, I've not heard
So
anything. So let me kind of two things here. First, back to Njai. This was a tweet sent out from a guy. He's got 11,000 followers. Urson Dimmer. He seems to be from the Amsterdam, but he's seems to run some website where for NBA and Division One scouting for international and JUCO prospects. And here's what he says. And Matt Jones is the one that retweeted this, by the way. But he says, "Wow, Kentucky gets one of the most skilled and athletic forwards on the market. What a haul! Here's all you need to know about the newest Wildcat." And then another person with similar, kind of similar credentials there says, "Unless something amazing happens, Kentucky now has their starting power forward." So I don't know. To
yeah,
me, it kind of is a gut punch because I think the way maybe Pope, and this just maybe true, he knows more about it than I do. Uh, I think the way Pope is envisioning this team is different than the way I would. I think at this point, uh, and I think a lot of that has to do with Stokes.
yeah. Well, they're definitely putting all their eggs in that basket,
Yeah,
and I mean, my gut is telling me that we're not getting him, and I wish we would just kind of
yeah.
to go
Move on.
away and move on. But you about have to stay at this point.
You've went so long because reports have came out this week that essentially Caleb Holt was ready to come to Kentucky, but he didn't want to play with Stokes, and there were other kind of good high school players that Kentucky could have got, but they didn't want to play with Stokes. And if that's the case, you know, then you have to get him. You can't pass on everybody and then miss,
Right.
the prize. If you think he's worth it, then you got to go finish. Um, but I don't know. I'm kind of at a loss. I just want to see how this plays out. I'm worried because I don't know if I see the vision for the roster yet. And I mean, I hope I'm wrong. I hope Njai comes in and you're like, man, he's a lottery pick. Who saw that coming? But I don't know.
Yeah. Like I said, to me, the international scene is so unknown to me that it's hard to be, it's hard to know what, because like you said, we heard all kinds of stuff about Yelovich, and I thought Yelovich was okay. But the fact of the matter is Yelovich did not shoot the ball well last year for the most part, and
No.
that's what everybody said he could do so good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he he was fine, but he never would have started last year if it hadn't been for all of our injuries.
Yeah, that's true.
And so that's the truth of it. And so I'm not worried about. I don't. Not that worried about Yelovich leaving. And I somebody was talking about. I heard somebody talking about. We've got to do a better job at retaining our roster. And I'm thinking, well, who really left that we? I mean, we couldn't have. In theory, we couldn't have gotten um, Oway and Aberdeen.
Yeah. Well, I think
Who
that
did
probably
who did
gets
we
it.
really want to keep
There's nobody outside of Chandler.
besides Chandler? We wanted to keep
Yeah,
Chandler,
but you
but
can't pay him three and a
but
half million dollars.
no, I mean nobody's paying Chandler $3.5 million. Only one school in
One
America is
school.
doing that.
Um, so I guess my thing is this. It's I keep hearing comparisons from everybody to last year. Last year can't be the standard. 14 losses can't be what you're comparing to. So, like, if Diallo and Wilkins, if you're saying, all right, are they as good as Oway and Aberdeen? They have to be in order for us to make a step forward. But
Yeah,
my thing is this: Oway was pretty daggone good, and Aberdeen by the end of the year was too. So we've still not addressed really where our flaws were with this team outside of, instead of Aberdeen and Oway really on a perfect team is your 2 and 3. These are now your 1 and 2. And if you think, having a point guard, a true point guard kind of makes up for some of that, maybe that's an improvement. But I'll just have to see it to believe either one of these guys are going to be better than Otega Oway.
yeah. I mean, I personally think that the Wilkins guy is going to be a better scorer than Oway was.
I could
As
see
far,
that. Maybe a better fit and for
uh,
a role in Pope's system. I could see that.
yeah, I think he now. I say better scorer. Will he average 20? Maybe not in the SEC,
Yeah.
but I think that he is um, going to be. He's a better shooter for one, um, but there's such different kind of players that I think it's hard. But I definitely think that he's got the potential to be a, I mean, really good for us next year. Um, and then, but we've got to have somebody at the three, and again, that could be. I mean, if we remember, Cam Williams was coming along and playing really well last year
He
when he
was.
broke his foot
Hmm.
and starting, which is the whole reason why Yelovich was starting in the first place.
Yeah.
Um, Wait, or he maybe Yelovich was already starting, but I thought Cam was starting at the four there for a while. But
Chandler wasn't starting. Chandler went through a slump, and Cam was starting in his spot.
yeah, at the three, that's right. So, um, Diabate was starting, and then they switched Yelovich with Diabate.
Yep.
But either way, the fact of the matter is, we've got to have what you said. We need a stud at the three.
Yep. So I think we're missing a. So let's look moving forward now. To me, this team needs some depth because you have 10 spots filled. And in all honesty, I hope I'm wrong. I hope Trent Noah can come in and be a contributor. I don't know if you can depend on it at this point. I don't think you can depend on Mason Williams coming in and being a reliable depth piece year one.
No,
Maybe an emergency third string point guard, but not real depth. Reese Potter, I don't know if you can depend on being your primary backup center. And then you used a spot on Zion Hawthorne, Braden Hawthorne's brother, who's not ranked anywhere, just kind of come out of nowhere. And in the way it seemed on the last day that the portal was open, it's almost like it was a hostage negotiation. He's like, yeah, I'll come back if you sign my brother. Just optics, the way it looks.
Yeah.
But ultimately, what that means is we have 5 spots left, and we need depth. We need a star, and we need. I still think this team needs shooting. We missed it last year. We didn't have enough. We thought we did probably, but we didn't. We need some surefire shooters. And if it's me, this is just me. You've already touched on it that you would kind of cut bait with Stokes, and so the word has come out that Kentucky all week has kind of been doing this dance with Jamal Crawford. And so for those listening, if you've not kept up with this, if you're just supporting us and listening and not followed it, Jamal Crawford, multi time NBA 6 Man of the Year, may have been an All Star a couple times, but well known in basketball circles. His son is the number 1 recruit in 2029, and he's an assistant coach for Tyron Stokes' high school team now. He's also a analyst on NBC for the NBA playoffs. So there's a lot of moving parts here, and Kentucky offered him a job early, and it kind of got serious this past week, and he thought about it and then turned them down. But now it seems like he's having some second thoughts, and it's possible that he could join the staff. If he does, it seems like that's the play to get Stokes here. And to me, that's probably the only play that gets him here. Because outside of that, I don't think he wants to be here, Matt, because if he did, he would have already signed.
Well, here's the thing with Stokes. Where does he want to be, though?
I
Do,
think he wants to be at
you know?
Kansas, and I think he wants Nike to give him the blessing to go ahead and be at Kansas. I
Well,
think,
my thing is, do they not? It's if he wants to be at Kansas, my whole thing is they should have had. It's either he can either do it or he can't.
yeah,
And if he can't, if he can, then why isn't he at Kansas? And if he can't, then why hasn't he picked a school somewhere else? That's my thing. I agree with you. If he wanted to be at Kentucky,
he's had every opportunity.
why isn't he here? But it's it's just odd to me. The whole thing is weird to me because by now this whole Adidas Nike thing has only been a thing for about 6 months.
Yeah,
So my thing is okay if the Nike is either going to let you or they're not.
yeah.
And so my thing is if he wants to be at Kansas, then he needs to. Then why isn't he there? And that's what I don't understand with the whole situation. But and or if he wants to be at Oregon, why isn't he there?
Well, to me, just reading the tea leaves, I think initially, I think the holdup was I don't think Kansas was comfortable with him wearing Nikes, the shoes. By all accounts, he doesn't, everything you read, he doesn't like Adidas shoes. Okay. And so he was going to, wear Adidas, obviously, because that's the jerseys at Kansas, but wear Nikes is what he wanted to do. I think initially the holdup was on Kansas' side. This is just the way I read things when you watch how it's unfolded. And I think he's like, well, probably looking like Kentucky then. If you're not going to let me wear these Nikes, he's already. And here's the thing: it's not just what shoes he likes better. He's a signed Nike athlete.
Right.
This is a money deal, and so he's going to go to Kentucky. Whatever happened, whether it's he doesn't like the cut of Pope's jib, or it's JMI or whatever it is, it fell apart in the fall. By all accounts, he was about to commit to Kentucky, sign, be done, and was going to sign in the early signing period, early December or even before. And that fell apart. Well, then all the momentum's on Kansas. If you read things, it says pretty much Kansas has now surrendered. They said, we want you bad enough. Bill Selfs wants to coach the guy. They have a good relationship. You can wear Nikes. Well, it seems like he was about to commit to Kansas, and all of a sudden Nike's like, we don't know if we want you to do that. And so I think that's probably where he come back to Kentucky for the visit, and it still didn't seem to go good. And I think now that's why you're starting to hear some chatter about Oregon. If ultimately he doesn't like Pope or doesn't like JMI, and Nike's not going to let him go to Kansas, that leaves Oregon.
And
Uh,
here's one thing that I don't really understand about, I've heard a lot about, Pope. What is it with Pope and these guys? Why can't
yeah.
he close, or they he can't relate to these guys? Well, I guess I could buy that, and I can buy that. But what I don't really understand all about that is if you're bringing a guy that's supposedly ready to sign. Well,
Hmm.
well, did he like Pope up until he was ready to sign? But then, right when he was ready to sign, he just decided not to like him. See, I don't either. So it's either this: either they weren't ready to sign, and that none of that's actually true, or he Pope's relating well enough with these guys to get them all the way to, oh, we're ready to sign tomorrow, and it falls through. Like, which is it?
Well, I think it could be the main point of contact up until visits, and when things come to close, is an assistant coach. And I think that's the other option is that why, like, Hart and Brooks were ready to move on, or did Kentucky not feel like they did a good enough job? I think we'll never know probably the answer to all these things. There's a problem somewhere,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I
and
mean, there's something going on, but you
what is it?
know,
Yeah.
to me, it can't be both. It can't be, oh, well, this player really likes Kentucky, and obviously, if he has gotten to the point to where it's all but done, well, he's. I wouldn't say that. You would think that he's okay with the coaches and all that other stuff. He's
Mhm.
obviously met. They've obviously met Coach Pope
Right.
and all these things. So, but then when they don't sign, it's like, well, Pope can't relate to these guys. Well, then why are they even there?
There to
Why
start
even
with.
there? Why even there in the first place? So,
And that
I'm
probably
just
brings
like,
JMI back into the equation. Like, is it something to do with the business, the money side of
and
it? That
maybe it's a little bit of both. I think, I
probably.
think that, I think that, it's probably a little bit of both. But when you're the way that the money is now, a lot of people they're using Kentucky. Kentucky, I don't think has the pull. If you're trying to use a school to get better offers,
Hmm.
you know, Kentucky might not be the one this day and age. The way
Yeah.
we,
Yeah. Well,
the way
it almost seems to me like if we had like a coach that everybody thought was cool or was an elite coach, whatever it is, and I hope he can be, but right now it doesn't seem that way. Or things were perfect with JMI. I think either one of them could be overlooked if the other one was perfect. But where
right,
maybe both of them's just a little off, it's enough when it comes together. They're like, I don't know if this is where I want to be.
right.
And so, but if it's me, you have to make a decision on Stokes first and foremost. I'm like you. I would cut bait. If I was betting, if you could go and put money somewhere and I had to put my $5 in a hat, you're going to get the best odds. And I think he'll end up at Oregon. I think Nike has
I
legit
think that's
power.
where he's going to.
And
I think
I
he's going
think
to
for
Oregon.
for whatever reason he doesn't want to be here. If it was me, and if I'm Mark Pope, and I know there's a better than decent chance that this could be my last season at Kentucky, your dream job, if you don't have a team that is a legit contender. I think a season like last year gets you fired. Um, you know, Probably a season like year one, you're in limbo. Who knows? And with the new athletic director, it's not the guy that hired you, so who knows? But if it's me, I'm saying Stokes. It's been nice knowing you, buddy. I don't know if we get along if you got here, and I'm going to take all that money and I'm going to beg people to let me spend it without it being him. And I'm calling the guy at Iowa State, and I'm going to say, listen, you're ranked in the 40s, second round. Best case scenario, you go and have a lights out combine and get to the end of the first. We're going to pay you more than they'll pay you.
Oh yeah, by a
And
lot.
even if you're a first round pick, so I'm gonna offer him. He is built to play in Pope's system, and then I'm not going to just knowing this is all or nothing for Pope. If the 5-5 passes like they're saying, I'm calling Oway back to be my 3 man, and if it doesn't, I'm calling Yusufu at Baylor and I'm offering him a chunk of money. But for what
Yeah,
they're saying, if you're going to pay Stokes 7, 8, 9 million, some people saying $10 million because they're desperate, and you're going to have to hire his assistant coach to be your coach now, who won't be here in a couple of years, going to be doing this whole shindig again because he's wanting a head coaching job by the time his son's there, then why not take that money and get two proven guys who one looks like a clone of Oway in Yusufu, who at Baylor, who was a freshman and put up the exact same numbers as Oway, and then uh, Momsalovic and a 7-footer that shoots 50% from three.
yeah,
And you could have both of them for that money. And to me, at some point, you have to identify stars and be aggressive in going and getting them. And it's just kind of whispered whether or not he's even reached out to them.
right. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's been I've heard that that it sounds like maybe they have, but there's been nothing that I've heard like concrete.
No. And I know both of those guys. They probably want to stay in the NBA draft, but at some point, money talks, and you in Kentucky has the money left over to spend to pretty much make them walk away from the NBA for 1 year.
Yeah, yeah, I think they need to move on. As soon as Stokes put Oregon as a option, I talked to my brother and I said he's going to Oregon. You can just write it down.
There's a reason because I feel like he's had every opportunity. If he wants to be at Kansas, I think he probably does in his heart, but money he probably can't pass up the Nike money. And if they're not going to let him, so be it. But I think if he really wanted to sign for either one, Kentucky or Kansas, he could have done that by now. So there's something holding up, and it's just going to fall in Oregon's lap ultimately. And
Which also
I can't
which
imagine him and Jasper
also
Johnson trying to play together.
yeah, which also makes you wonder if that's the case. You know, what's the holdup with Oregon? It's I mean, I just think the kid is. I mean, I don't know that I've ever seen anything like this.
I just wonder if he doesn't. He's the number one player, and I think, and this, I mean, he may be, just a saint. I don't know. Just from the outside looking in, I wonder if he doesn't kind of believe his own hype and think ultimately Nike's going to cave to what I want, and he's trying to just play it out as long as he can. When I think, Nike's like, you're a fringe, Nike athlete. You're not Cooper Flag. You're not Boozer. You're not probably Caleb Wilson. You're probably not even like Nate Ament. I mean, honestly, if he was in this year's class, he's probably 12th to 14th.
Yeah, yeah,
And
that's the thing. I mean,
and I just don't think they're going to play that game with him. And ultimately, I think it'll cave. He'll have to pick a Nike school if he's going to wear Nikes next year.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I just don't think it's going to happen at Kentucky with him, and I think it's going to end up backfiring on us big time. And and the thing about it is who knows what's being discussed behind closed doors with him. With is he telling? He's got to be giving them some kind of indication that he's that he's truly undecided or something. Which, but if you're Kentucky, you're like, if you just make a decision,
Yeah.
or we're just going to have to move on, because I don't think he cares. If Kentucky were to say we're going to have to move on, I don't think he cares one way or the other.
No, it's not like you're going to hurt his feelings. And so I guess that gets us to just starting ready to wrap up here. One more visitor that we've had on campus over the last couple of days. He's there now, I believe. I don't know if it's ended. But Jerome Morton, he played at George Rogers Clark, but he's played the last 2 years at Washington State. He's going to come in and be, kind of a depth piece. I think he's pretty good for what you're probably wanting. He's probably a backup two. He's 6'4", shoots almost 40% from three, average right at 8 points a game, 82% from the free throw line. So I think that's probably the kind of piece you want. But I think we probably need one more shooter. Honestly, besides him, we need some depth there. But I'm just interested to see how this team's going to come together. And how it all shakes out. But I think a lot of the future of Kentucky is probably shaped by this last thing we need to at least touch on, and that's the Barnhardt deal falling through. It's something we talked about was, Barnhardt was retiring, and then he gets the big contract from President Capilouto, almost $1 million a year, the 10 seats, it's been talked about ad nauseum to this point. But the governor kind of made a statement, probably politically charged, but he made a statement that puts the spotlight on it. It becomes a national story, and now it seems like the job has been pulled, and probably one that Barnhart had to agree to. It seems like Capilouto said he's going to privately fund like a retirement package for him to pay for it from private donations, so it doesn't come from public money. So I'm sure Mitch is going to get paid, but it's not going to be, it's not going to come with a job overlooking the athletic department for the next, decade.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it's definitely uh, good that that whole thing blew up because it was just a lot of uh, negativity there. And honestly, I don't think Barnhart. I think we need a clean
Mm-hmm.
slate with the athletic department. I mean, I think Barnhart was great, and he was a great athletic director.
Yep.
But I don't think we need to have him in the office in the same building or whatever. Or, as our new athletic director, I just think they need to, cut ties completely.
Barnhart was a great athletic director for the first 15 years he was here, but once college athletics become pro sports, I think Barnhart's time had kind of come to an end.
Yeah,
And
because
I
he didn't like it,
no,
and so
and
he
that's
never.
okay.
It took
But
him a while to get on board with it, and he still didn't like it. And
yeah,
so yeah, we need to have somebody with more that knows that this it is what it is, and is willing to tackle it how it has to be.
right now it seems like the leading candidate, if you just look at things, is probably Jeremiah Dickey from Boise State, young guy, 42 years old. He's been the NCAA athletic director of the year before last. He came in, he makes moves quick, but it's paid off so far for him. He seems to be really good at raising money, and that's going to be essential in the time we're in. So ultimately, I'm just glad it's someone outside of UK. I was terrified this was just going to be a hire that JMI was going to handpick somebody they already had in house, and so I don't claim to know anything about him, but at least he's not here and has no connections really to Barnhart. And that's ultimately, I think, what we were looking for. If you're not going to go get a proven guy, I think it was kind of hinted the guy at Oregon for a while because he had some ties here. But ultimately, that's going to be a hard job to leave with the Nike Association, and you already have football kind of rolling there. But Matt, anything before we wrap up? I'm sure we'll be talking again in the next week because ultimately we're going to know a week from now a lot more about this roster. At least I hope we do. We say that every time, but it seems like we just kind of getting these long, kind of stalemate sessions. But anything before we wrap up?
No, I'm just I'm hoping we've got a few roster spots left to fill, and hopefully we can uh, get that one really big piece that we need, and really we need two pretty big pieces. And maybe the one we got today is a big piece.
Yeah,
I just don't
don't
have a
know.
ton of confidence in
Yeah.
that, but I mean, I uh, hope he's a stud, but I think we've got to go get that one big piece and then feel around it with some guys.
100%. Well, regardless, we'll be here to talk about it. And then once we get through portal season, we'll kind of start shifting to to football, which has things rolling. I think that's probably the counter argument for,
Yeah.
if JMI is a problem, how, and I know it's different signing a number one basketball player to an offensive lineman, but, when he signed the number two quarterback in America, that's got star power. And
Yeah.
so you can't tell me, everything's wrong with the money if you're able to go sign players like that. So there's a lot to look forward to on that side of things, and we'll start talking about that as the transfer portal season wraps up, and we'll talk to everybody next time. Go Cats.
All right. Sounds good. Go Cats.